In my old hometown, we weren't allowed to play out of the yard. The highway was at one end and the bayou at the other. Like alligators walking down the road was a normal occurrence, you know? So anyway, there was a girl who would ride her bike up and down the road and we'd chit-chat. She was maybe 7, 8. I know I was like 5 or 6. We weren't too far apart. Anyway, she would come and talk and then we would part. Sometimes she came with other kids, sometimes not. One day, she invites me to her birthday party. I have to ask my mom if I can go. She said she lived a couple houses down, no big deal. Mom says no. You don't know her, she doesn't live on this street, etc. I was upset, so unfair, she's my friend. I never saw her again and thought she was mad at me. I went back to visit family and brought up this story with my mom and aunt about how weird it was I never saw her after that. They got really quiet and my aunt tells me that there was a girl by that name who was found in this guy's house along with a bunch of other kids. He did awful things to them and they died. Here's where it's creepy, they would have been dead by the time I was talking to them. I never felt so cold and we all agreed to never talk about it again. When I was a kid, I had this neighbor. He was the nicest guy and always friendly. He lived alone but always had a smile. But behind closed doors he had a real dark and creepy side. He would invite tons of people over every week. I always assumed he was party animal, but I was horribly wrong. One evening I stayed up late to watch a movie, and since I lived in a row house, where all houses are connected, you can hear all front doors close. So around 4 a.m. this one night, I heard my neighbor leave and I went to the window to see what he was doing, and he was carrying what looked like a body in a sheet. I told my mom the next morning and she called the cops, and when they searched his house, they found all kinds of murder tools and poisons and a bunch of blood in jars. My neighbor would later confess to killed at least 8 people but never said where he buried them. He got sentenced to life in prison, and to this day I still think about him. I have since moved away, but recently I found out his house was demolished because no one wanted to buy the house after finding out what happens in there. "10 years old me. New family had recently moved in and had set up a shrine with a face on a tree and candles in the backyard, irrelevant other than for context of creepiness. We became friends with the girl in the family who began telling us that her house was haunted. We were intrigued, as any good 10 years old would be, but given their weirdness, we thought nothing of it. One day, playing in the yard with her, a disheveled-looking man comes running out the front door, followed by the family. He proceeded to run, full speed, into the woods with the dad yelling at him. Come to find out, dude had been living in their attic and had been keeping it locked from the inside. The dad finally pried it open, chase ensuing. To this day, I check under, inside, above, behind, and outside of every house I have ever lived in, and regularly clear corners when I get home. Years ago, my bedroom was in the basement, and with the way my room was set up, I could see the bottom of the stairs from my bed. I was napping one day and suddenly jerked awake, and a shadowy figure was sitting on the stairs, watching me. I could feel pure anger and hatred radiating from this figure as it watched me, and my instincts were screaming that whatever it was wanted me dead. My body was shaking and reacted on its own, moving my arms onto a defensive position. After a few seconds, the figure suddenly vanished and I could move again. I was freaked out and went upstairs to watch TV. It happened again a few weeks later, and it was the last time. I've lived in a small mountain town in Colorado for 17 years. When my friends and I got our licenses, we drive around in the mountains when we got bored. This one area we went to frequently is beautiful, but it's known to be pretty sketchy. People shoot guns in the wrong areas. There's a lot of drug use when people party, and bodies have been occasionally found back there. We were driving around one night when we suddenly passed a man walking on the road. It was weird because we hadn't seen him in the headlights initially. It was more like he appeared out of nowhere as we were passing him. I thought he was walking a little weird as I looked back at him, so I asked my friend to stop. Maybe he was hurt or something. He paused for like 10 seconds when we stopped, and then he started running at the vehicle. Not, "Oh shit, let me catch up to them real quick" jog with a wave or anything like that. A full-blown sprint like he had a personal vendetta against us. It freaked us out, and my friend hit the gas again. We did call the police just to make sure we didn't leave him in danger, but didn't hear anything else about it.